All right. Today let me just check I am live. Yes, I'm live. Okay, today we're going to talk about the imposter speech. And I'm going to be, for those of you who are new to me, I'm going to be giving you a full introduction to the imposter speech. I'm going to talk about what exactly it is, although there's a clue in the name. We'll talk about what the imposter speech is, why you need it. This is really my focus for today. I want you going away from this session, however you're listening to it or watching it, with a really clear understanding, not just of what the imposter speech is, but why you absolutely need to have one, why it is the most important tool in your toolkit for progressing your career, especially as a lawyer, especially as a Black lawyer wanting to progress within this industry. And it applies whatever level you are at, because guess what? Imposter syndrome, right, which the imposter speech is the answer to, this comes up at every level. This comes up when you're a junior, you're just starting out. This comes up when you are senior, when you're going into new roles. This is relevant for the whole and applicable for the whole duration of your career. So what I'm going to share with you today, I want you to pay really close attention. I want you to make sure you fully understand what this speech can do, when you can use it, how to build it, so that you can start building this skill and applying it and using it in the workplace today to help you get out of your own way, to make sure that imposter syndrome never holds you back, which is a clue to what the imposter speech is. All right, I'm getting ahead of myself. Before I go any further, for those of you who are new to me, who don't know me, it's a pleasure to meet you. Welcome. My name is Caroline Flanagan. I am the Black Lawyers Coach. I'm also a recognized expert on imposter syndrome. I've written a book about it, especially about the experience of imposter syndrome in people of color who are striving to succeed in a white world. So this is my jam. Imposter syndrome is my passion, teaching you how to overcome it so that it never holds you back again is my absolute purpose and what lights me up every day, and why I do these lives and doing this podcast, do these reels, to help you to solve for this very unique form of self-doubt. Okay, so let's wind back then to the beginning, to the basics. What on earth is an imposter speech? Well, an imposter speech is kind of like it says, what it sounds like. It's the speech that you give yourself in the moment when your imposter syndrome has been triggered. Now, there's a lot in there. It's a speech, and by speech, I want you to think like an equivalent word would be pep talk, right? It's just a series of sentences that you say to yourself that has this transformative effect on you. And I'll come back to what that effect is in a minute. But for now, just know it is this empowering speech, and you say it to yourself in the moments when your imposter syndrome has been triggered. This requires that you understand that, like, what triggers your imposter syndrome, and then you can identify or recognize the signs of that imposter syndrome being triggered. And I'm going to cover all of that to make this super, super clear. What does it do? So in the moment, there's been this trigger, something's happened in your environment, something's happened in your organization, somebody said something to you, you've been given a piece of work, you've been offered an opportunity, you have, there's just so many different triggers. I was coaching within Confident Black Lawyers today, one of my clients who has got through to the final round for a new role. That has triggered her imposter syndrome. So you can hear examples there of the types of things that might trigger imposter syndrome. This feeling that you are not enough, the feeling that you are less than, the thought that your success is down to luck, you don't deserve to be here. Those are all examples or signs that your imposter syndrome has been triggered, right? These are signs of imposter syndrome for those of you who are new to my work. So what happens is there's a trigger, like getting through to the next round, the final round, for a role that you really want. You should be feeling great about that, shouldn't you? You should be feeling excited. You should be feeling like, yes, challenged, but like ready for that challenge. But when you have imposter syndrome, what happens is all of the thoughts come up to the surface of, I'm going to be found out. I got this, I got through to the final round out of luck. I don't deserve to be here. I'm not smart enough and everybody's going to know. I'm going to be exposed. If you have any of those thoughts or feelings, if they show up for you in the workplace in response to something that's happened, then this, my friend, shows you that your imposter syndrome has been triggered. It really is simply the feeling of not enoughness. And here's what happens when you have an imposter speech. When that feeling has been triggered, when you're feeling like you're not enough, you being able to take your brain to say to yourself, this imposter speech, and I'll tell you what the components of it are in a moment, when you're able to take yourself to the place of actually giving yourself this imposter speech, what it does is it takes you out of the not enoughness and it puts you into a state of what I call connection to your capability. So it takes you out of not enoughness and it connects you to the version of you that is capable, highly capable of anything that you set your mind to and has therefore the confidence to do your best work. When you're feeling like you're not enough, doubting yourself, worried about being exposed, you do not do your best work, right? It actually has the opposite effect. What it makes you do, what it drives you to do is to overwork, for example, to think, oh, everything has to be perfect, or I have to say yes to all of the things. I have to quadruple check, excessively check my work. I have to labor over every single email, every detail. These are examples of overworking. This is a sign that your imposter syndrome has been triggered. But when you overwork, you can't do your best work. It holds you back. It's stifling your potential to overwork. Another example of what you might do when your imposter syndrome is triggered, when you have that feeling, I'm not enough, or some sort of version of that, I shouldn't be here, I don't deserve to be here. What happens is you also then overthink. So I talked about overworking. Overthinking is another sign. I call it a secret sign of imposter syndrome. A lot of you out there are overthinking, second guessing yourself all the time. You are stuck in your own head, not actually getting on and doing the work. You're kind of thinking round and round in circles, maybe procrastinating, avoiding the task. These are all examples of overthinking. Again, overthinking, it's one of those things. It stifles your potential. It holds you back. It keeps you stuck. This is not you at your best. This is not you performing to your potential. When you overwork, when you overthink, right, you fall short of your potential. You can't do your best work because you're too busy in your own head. Think about it. You're too busy in your own head, worried that you're not enough, afraid of being exposed. Okay. So this is what happens when you recognize those signs. You know your imposter syndrome has been triggered because you're doing one of those things. You're overworking or overthinking. You might also be playing small, like hiding, or self-sabotage, really judging yourself, talking down to yourself. They're all examples, right? Secret signs of imposter syndrome. So when you're doing any of those, what you want to happen is that you catch it. You realize, right, my imposter syndrome has been triggered. Right, now I need to say my imposter speech. It's like enter your imposter speech in that moment. And what it does is it cuts through that not enoughness. It stops overworking, overthinking, playing small, and self-sabotage in its tracks. All those behaviors that will hold you back and keep you stuck and stifle your potential. Your imposter syndrome, when you say it in the moment, right, when your imposter syndrome is triggered, it cuts across all of that. It cuts through all the not enoughness and it puts you into capability, connects you with a version of yourself that is so highly capable of anything you set your mind to. That version of you, and this is how you know it will work, is because that version of you is knowledgeable and experienced. That version of you is highly capable. That version of you is resilient, is resourceful, is creative. That version of you is motivated and driven. That version of you is determined and purposeful. There's a version of you that when you are connected to her or him or them, can then get to work, can do your best work. You're not caught up worrying about not being enough, not worrying about being exposed. Yeah, so let me just summarize all of that because there was a lot in that, and I want to make sure you don't miss one single bit because of how important every single element is. There's the event that happens around you, outside of you, something is said, or an opportunity comes up, or you get promoted even to a new role, or you get through to the last round. It can be any number of things. And honestly, like, we're all triggered by different things. My imposter syndrome gets triggered all the time. It can be triggered when I'm just feeling very, very tired and I've got a really challenging task to do. That can trigger my imposter syndrome. That can leave me feeling I don't know enough, or I'm not good enough, or I'm not articulate enough or smart enough. Yes, I still have those feelings. I still have those moments. Because imposter syndrome, as long as you are growing, as long as you are progressing, as long as you are someone who's willing to put yourself into bigger and bigger rooms, who wants to grow, who wants to achieve, who wants to fulfill your potential, you will experience imposter syndrome at some point. Something will happen that will make you question whether you are enough. And what I want to say is, when that happens, nothing's gone wrong. As I've just said, explained, it's a product of you putting yourself in bigger environments, in areas or contexts where you have the opportunity to grow, or even just in rooms where everybody around you is so different to you. You know that feeling, right? I know that feeling only too well. If you're a Black lawyer and you're striving to succeed in a white world, this has been your experience. So this is exactly the kind of thing that will trigger the questioning, the feeling of not enoughness. So the trigger happens, and then you feel inadequate, you feel not enough, or you feel insufficient. And what your brain wants to do is go straight to overworking or overthinking, go straight to playing small, right? Hiding, go straight to self-sabotage. Your brain will want to do this immediately. But when you have an imposter speech, when you know exactly what to say to yourself in that moment that connects you to the version of you that is capable of anything you put your mind to, all of that not enoughness melts away. And what it does is it gives you the confidence to do your best work. So trigger, then there's a symptom or a sign of imposter syndrome, the way you want to think and behave. But then you catch that, right? You catch that your imposter syndrome has been triggered, and then you come in with your imposter speech. It gives you the confidence to do your best work. That's literally how it works, okay? So I just want to offer, for those of you who have been battling imposter syndrome for years, worrying that this is something that never goes away, you can't overcome, it's been holding you back all this time. You've been trying all of the different tactics, right? And the tricks. You've tried faking it till you make it. You've tried acting as if you've already done it. You've tried telling yourself you deserve to be here. You've tried calling your mum, calling your best friends. And you know what? Sometimes those things work temporarily. They do sometimes give you a boost. I know that can happen. I've had that sometimes where I've just got a bit of a boost from talking to a friend or one of my sons, or sometimes my husband will give me a bit of a boost, but it never lasts, and it never actually makes me feel more confident. It never actually, because it comes from outside of me, and this will be your experience too when you apply those tactics. When it comes from outside of you, you don't feel it in your bones. You don't feel connected to your capability that in a way that makes you feel confident on the inside. Faking it till you make it, of course, gets you doing the task, but it doesn't create confidence on the inside. For that, my friend, you absolutely need your imposter speech. Just checking that I can see my comments for when they come in. Okay, so we've talked about what it is. We've talked about how it works, like taking you out of not enoughness and connecting you to your capability so you feel confident, right? It literally gives you confidence. This is what the tool does. I've given you an example of a client who was going into the second round of an interview. I want to give you another example that came up inside Be the First, which is my group coaching program for mid to senior level Black lawyers who want to progress to the next level. So if this is you, this is the program. In addition to any confidence work you do or want to do with me inside Confident Black Lawyers, which is the confidence program, Be the First is the program to join in order to progress to the next level. So within Be the First, the group coaching program, one of my clients was sharing how this was a couple of weeks ago now, she'd had her review and she'd received some negative feedback. And the thing about my client is she'd been making so much progress, she was doing so well, and she really felt she'd cracked so many of these things. So when it was time for her to have her review and this negative feedback came up, and by the way, it wasn't the only feedback she had, but this was what, of course, being a trigger, that's what she fixated on. What it did was it triggered the feeling that she's not enough. She hasn't been doing enough. She's not good enough. She can't get it right. But here's what happened. And it's amazing because she talked me through it and she did it in the whole group so they could literally see how her brain was working, where it wanted to go when her imposter syndrome was triggered. And then they could, because of the way she explained exactly step by step how she came in, used her speech and what that did, like the whole room was able to see the power of the imposter speech. So what happened was she had this feedback, and what she wanted to do was go back to her desk and start like picking apart every piece of work and then just working. Okay, I'll work all night. I'll do whatever it takes. I'm going to keep working. I'm going to put my head down and I'm just going to overwork, make it perfect. So that way they'll know I deserve to be here, right? They'll know, and they'll know I'm capable if I just make everything perfect. Her brain wanted to go straight to perfectionism. This, my friend, is a secret sign of imposter syndrome. If when you get a piece of negative feedback, your brain wants to go, you want to go straight to, I need to make it perfect, that means your imposter syndrome has been triggered. In other words, the action that you're about to take comes from the feeling of not enoughness. Because what else is perfection if not the need, the desire? If I make it perfect, then that will show I'm good enough, right? So what was brilliant with my client is she learned to catch it. She caught the fact that this was just her imposter syndrome showing up, making her want to drive to perfectionism. And she caught it and she redirected her brain. This is what the imposter syndrome, the imposter speech does. It redirects you to, reconnects you to your capability, makes you confident to do the work, do the best work. So she was able to then look at the feedback that she'd received, and she was actually then able to go, okay, no, I'm not going to just get straight into being a perfectionist. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to look at this piece of work. She looked at it. She's like, okay, I can delegate that. I can delegate that. This isn't what I should be working on. This I can send over here. And here's how I'm going to approach this. I can see what the solution is. Like, can you hear how different her state was when she was having used and applied what I taught her about connecting to her capability, right? Using the imposter speech. Now she'd use that, and what high quality thinking and actions she took as a result of being connected to how capable she was, versus being in not enoughness, her reaction to the negative feedback, right? Which had her thinking, I have to make everything perfect. I have to work really hard. I have to work all the hours. And the interesting thing was her feedback related to like how much time she was spending on tasks, and it was overbilling the client and costing the client too much. So can you see how if she'd gone straight into being a perfectionist and putting her head down, what would have happened is she would have done exactly the thing that her partner, the boss, did not want her to do. And so instead, because she was able to use her imposter speech, she was able to catch her imposter syndrome, right? Hold herself back from overworking, which is what perfectionism is, a form of overworking, and take herself to the place where she was really highly capable, confidently able to look at the work and assess what needed to be done by her, what needed to be outsourced or delegated, right? And get the job done and do her best work. She just laid out all of those steps and showed the transformation. So what I want to offer you is, this is just one example, right? When you get negative feedback, it can be a trigger for your imposter syndrome. That's when you want to use your imposter speech. This is just one example. Any scenario in which your imposter syndrome is triggered and you are tempted to overwork, overthink, play small and self-sabotage, right? Really judge yourself, talk yourself down. Any scenario, any trigger that makes you feel like you're not enough, makes you question your right to be here, makes you afraid that you're going to be exposed, As soon as you have that feeling, as soon as you find yourself wanting to take that type of action, overworking, overthinking, playing small, self-sabotage, those types of actions that what they do is hold you back, keep you stuck, they stifle your potential, they don't allow you to show up and do your best work. So whenever those things happen, any of those things, that's when you want to catch it, recognize it as imposter syndrome, and then come in with your imposter speech. Yeah, give yourself that pep talk that connects you to your capability. The version of you that's capable of anything that you set your mind to. This is how it works. So you have the confidence to get to work. All right. So we've talked about what it is. We've talked about when you use it. We've talked about, I've given you some examples. Let's talk about then how you build it. So how you build the imposter speech, and the reason why it works is because you build it from a place of connectedness. What do I mean by that? You build it from a place of having internalized your successes, your accomplishments. You build it from a place of being really connected and driven by your values. You connect to it, you connect to like the experiences you've had, the challenges you've overcome, the setbacks you've faced. Like everything you've faced along the way, this has made you who you are. This is how you have become so resilient and resourceful. It's how we become so motivated and driven. It's how you have become so knowledgeable, right, and experienced. And it's how you can be so determined and purposeful. There's a whole like lifetime of experience that you have had that has got you to this point, which is like, I talk about mining the gold. You want to mine the gold of your experience to get to that capability, right? To extract it. Now, if this is sounding all a little bit intangible and vague, I don't want you to worry, because I literally created a process to help you do that, to help you connect to that version of you that is so extraordinarily capable. And just by way of context, so that you can understand and see how true this is and how I've come to create this imposter speech, this was the breakthrough for me. This was the difference, me understanding that my power, my capability lay in really being connected to who I was, what I'd accomplished, yes, but also like what's been driving me all the time, what drives me to want to succeed and to want to grow and to put myself into bigger and bigger rooms and expose myself to challenges. What I've experienced by way of setback and challenges and what it required of me to overcome them. My understanding, realization that all of those things made me who I am, and not only made me who I am, but actually made me so incredibly powerful. That's what made me feel and realize I had, or I could be confident. That's what made me feel confident. It gave me the confidence to start to do great work. It was a complete transformation for me. And this was a really messy experience for me, by the way. I just want to be clear. Like, this didn't just land out of nowhere. And I was one day, and something happened, triggered my imposter syndrome. And then I just rolled, like a speech just rolled off my tongue, and I gave myself a pep talk, and it was all great. And I was confident. No. I went through a messy process. Like, I really dug deep. I did all the exploration. I really was so determined. I was so fed up of how much imposter syndrome was holding me back, how it kept coming up, how I didn't know how to get past it. I could see in myself the overworking and overthinking, the self-sabotage and the playing small, the hiding I did when opportunities came up that I knew I was qualified for. Maybe you've had that experience. Yeah, maybe you've had the experience of knowing you should go for promotion, but just not being able to go for it, not having the courage, holding yourself back, maybe even pretending or telling yourself, oh, that's not what you really want. Yeah, so I had been like just in that like pattern of behavior, still achieving, still making progress, but constantly doubting myself, constantly feeling like I wasn't enough. And I'd reached the point where I was like, right, this can't go on. I have to figure this out. I have to understand it. And what followed was so much soul searching. If you've read my book, Be the First, if you've come across that, I lay out the whole story about this soul searching, how messy it was, how tearful it was, how painful it was. Oh, but when I came out the other side and I knew exactly what it was, where my power was inside of me. I knew exactly what to say to myself to connect to that power. I'm like, this is it. Yeah. And I used I didn't call it then an imposter speech. I just used my speech, right? And I started seeing the results that it created. I saw how it could get me very quickly out of not enoughness to just doing the work, how it could make me feel confident and quite bold, how it brought all of my capability to the task that was in front of me, or the challenge or the goal that I'd set myself. I saw how it was working. So I started teaching it, started sharing it with my clients. And the results are incredible. I mean, there's one client I was on with her today inside Confident Black Lawyers. I was coaching her, and she has just transformed in front of my eyes. It literally brings me to tears to hear the way she's talking about herself now, to hear how she's on her inside, to hear how this imposter syndrome work, using the imposter speech, connecting to your capability, like to hear the words she uses, how she talks about herself, the confidence she's bringing to her tasks, to the challenges that come up, to the goals she wants to achieve. And it is just, it's just so uplifting to just see this being played out. So my clients are experiencing this as well, and I want you to have this experience too. All right. So I called it the imposter speech because then I had to figure out how to teach it. Right. So this is what you get inside Confident Black Lawyers. And if you're watching or listening to this before Saturday, the 31st of May, this is what I'm going to teach you. I'm going to walk you through at Confidence Live, which is my in-person live event in London on Saturday, 31st of May, all day. And we are literally going to teach you. I'm going to help you build your own imposter speech. I'm going to help you understand your triggers. I'm going to help you recognize the signs of imposter syndrome. Yeah, when that's what's coming up and you're in danger of taking those actions or doing that behavior that's going to slow you down, stifle your potential, and really ultimately keep you stuck, put a ceiling on your progress. I'm going to help you see those signs so that you can catch them. And then when we've built the speech, teach you how to then give yourself this imposter speech in that moment so that you can connect to the capability you have inside you, and that give you the confidence to get to work. All right. So I think that's like covered everything I wanted to share with you today. I don't want to overload you with the application of the imposter speech. The important thing is this: you know what the imposter speech is. You know that it is just a pep talk. It is the speech you give yourself when your imposter syndrome has been triggered, but it's not something you make up on the spot. It's something that you create in a moment when you're feeling most connected to how powerful you are. And what I do, because that's not something we typically can access, and it's certainly not something you can access in the moment when your imposter syndrome has been triggered and you're full of not enoughness and the fear of being exposed, you want to have this prepared beforehand when you're in the highest state of connectedness to your capability. So that's what I create for you inside Confident Black Lawyers. I take you to the place, I walk you through a process that connects you to your power, to your capability. And in that state of connectedness, that's when we create the speech, right? That's where it gets its power and its impact. And you then get to take that away and you implement it, you apply it every time you experience imposter syndrome being triggered, every time you put yourself in a bigger room, every time you're promoted, every time you seize an opportunity, you have this speech on hand, right, to connect you to your capability and give you the confidence to do your best work. And what that means, my friend, is imposter syndrome will never hold you back again, because with this tool, you will always be able to overcome it. And it means you will always be able to keep progressing, because no matter what room you're in, no matter how you might be made to feel, no matter what triggers your a sense of not enoughness, or what makes you question whether you belong or whether you should be there, even just the experience of being the only one in the room, no matter what happens, you will have this imposter speech always with you. So there'll never be a room you can't walk into. There'll never be a level that you can't progress to with your imposter speech in your pocket. I always like to think of it as a tool I have in my pocket with me at all times. Yeah, it will take you all the way, my friend. All right, that's it for today. I hope you found that useful. You might have lots of questions about the imposter speech, in which case DM me, If you're watching this on social media, you can DM me, you can email me, you can, if you are listening to this on the podcast, then for a start, you want to be on my email list, right? So make sure you go to carolineflanagan.com and sign up to the email list. And then you can just DM me or email me directly with any of your questions about imposter syndrome, about the imposter speech, about how it works, and why it is the single most important, actually correction. It is the only tool you need to overcome your imposter syndrome so that you have the confidence to do your best work and fulfill your actual true potential rather than stifle it with all of those negative behaviors. All right, that's it from me. I wish you a wonderful evening or whenever you're watching this. Let me know if you have any comments. I'll be back this time next week, as usual, with more on imposter syndrome, on the power of your imposter speech, on how to apply it, on how to build it, and answering any questions you have. All right, great speaking to you. I'll see you next time. Bye for now.